Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
My family, my friends, my job, and leave the country. And so I'm so jealous. It's like, you can do it. You're just choosing your comfort, which is fine. But it's like, we get to choose what we want to create.
Well, I think this is important. In order to grow, you got to get out of your comfort zone, right? If it's worth it, you're going to get out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Right. And a lot of times what happens is we go and we go and we go, and then all of a sudden life reaches up and slaps us upside the head. And now we have to get out of our comfort zone because we forced ourselves into this place, right? You're sort of doing this out of a choice and an adventure, but you're building this resume to get to where you are today. And I love this process. I mean, okay, so real quick, why Malta?
Again, the water and the teaching. It was called Fit Yoga Teacher Training. And so I really liked power yoga.
Yeah.
And so the type of yoga aligned with what I wanted, and the timing of it aligned with the break that I had from the nutrition school.
What's power yoga?
Power yoga is like fast yoga.
Okay.
Not like,
I don't understand.
Okay, so I'm gathering you don't practice yoga, which is fine.
Don't practice yoga. I do know a couple of moves. I'm terrible at them.
So some yoga is very slow and mindful and like, let's hold the pose for 3 minutes. Power yoga is like pose, 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 flow, flow, flow. And so it's
almost
more
aerobic.
It's a faster paced form of yoga.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know hot yoga.
It's like that.
I've heard of hot yoga.
It was quite hot in Malta.
I have a brother-in-law that's certified in hot yoga.
Oh, very cool.
Bikram,
yeah.
Yeah, Bikram, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so you go to Malta. Are there beaches in Malta?
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah.
We know how you love beaches. That's why I'm asking. Okay, so you go to Malta and you learn power yoga. And then you come back and you go back to London. So you're in Malta on a break?
Yeah, so I finished both of those within a couple months. Yeah, so then I went back to the States after that.
Okay. So when you came back to the States, what did you do?
Okay, this is the last thing I did before I started my business, okay? I promise the, roller coaster is like kind of over.
No, I love this, man. This is the coolest thing. I love your story.
Thank you. So I got back to the States in 2019 and I was like, okay, wellness, health, nutrition, fitness, Italy, food, what do I do? And I'm like Googling all of these words, and Google is like, we don't know what you should do. But I ended up finding this job that was at this kind of fitness wellness center in Boston, and I worked on their sales team and did some nutrition counseling. And this was I really liked this job. It was super comfortable and I liked the people. The culture was really great and I was happy. And I was excelling. And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And that
The
is
next
when
year. Like you came back in 2019 and the very next year the pandemic hit.
Yeah, so I was at this job for like 6 months and the pandemic had hit. And so I I was working virtually for them for a while. And again, like I was like, let's go, like let's, I was really into it. But then all of a sudden, like I got this download and it was like, I need to start my own business. It needs to combine cooking, health, wellness, nutrition, Italy, retreats.
Power yogurt.
And yeah, and I was
Running out of
like,
fingers.
yeah, and I was like, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah.
And I spent the last 4 years figuring out how to do that.
This is so cool. So you create intuitive health.
Mhm.
Talk about that for a second. So you take all of this, combine it together, and the idea is you're teaching people how to live Dolce Vita.
Yeah, so I'm teaching people how to make their health easy and intuitive, which to me means like I don't have to think about it. It just is natural. It's automatic. It's effortless. Because for me, I talked about my health journey a little bit of how it was really rigid when I was on that diet, but now I'm I'm on the coast of Greece right now and like eating fried feta and drinking wine and like and I'm eating vegetables and it's not that big of a thing for my health, and that's because I've created this lifestyle and this almost I've systemized almost the way that it can become intuitive for people. And so the first offer that I had in my business was this program, a cooking program called Cookwell, and it was virtual, and it was a 8-week program aimed at helping people have more fun cooking healthy food in the kitchen. And so I had people join and it was an absolute blast. Like we had so much fun. Every week I would send them a recipe and ingredients and they would show up on Zoom with the ingredients and we would literally cook together.
Mhm.
And what was happening was it was building this community. It was this creativity. People were getting out of their heads and into their bodies. It's that relaxation from the ocean, but in the kitchen.
Mhm.
And they were feeding their families and actually proud of what they were making, and they were making whole healthy foods taste succulent and crave-worthy, and they were like, "Holy shit, like, this is so good,"
Yeah.
um, and so that was a blast for me, and after the second round that I did, people were like, "We don't want this to end," and I was like, "I don't want this to end," like, people were kinda just starting to get to know each other, and that's when I was like, "Okay, I wanna make this longer, and I wanna add on a retreat to Italy at the end as kind of like the hurrah." And that is when I started hosting these culinary and wellness retreats in Southern Italy, where I actually went to culinary school, which is part of my heart and soul, and then that's really when things just started exploding from there.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I love this. So so as you start this, you're teaching people how to cook, but in a different take. Like there's a different way here, right?
Yeah. Right.
And what I mean by that is when a lot of people think about cooking, they sort of think of it as a chore,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? And a lot of times they think of it as a chore and then they cook something and then after they eat it, they don't really feel all that good.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay.
Totally.
So the sensory reception, the feedback, right, is I worked all this time, I slaved all this time in the kitchen, and I created this thing that I'm eating, and it might even taste good, right? But afterwards you feel like you need a nap.
Right.
Or your body is telling you, your body's rebelling, right? Your body's telling you, hey, here are all my health issues, diabetes, Crohn's disease, whatever,
Right.
right? I mean, you know,
Yeah, no, I would love to speak on this. Can I?
yeah. So, well, I feel like it's important that we talk about it because it's
Yeah,
sort of the bedrock of intuitive health. Intuitive health is about healing yourself, but doing it in a way that's natural.
right.
And here's the thing. I feel like, and I'm just going off of what I've read about you. But I feel like this is a loop. And it's a loop that you cook, you teach people how to cook, they enjoy it, then they eat the food that they cooked after enjoying cooking it, right? They eat the food that they cooked and they feel empowered. And it helps them get off of a bunch of different drugs that they're currently on to try to deal with the fact that they've eaten themselves into a hole.
Mhm.
I have a little bit of background with this. I lost 162 pounds after being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
I ate myself into a hole. I
Yeah.
nearly ate myself into death.
Right.
And one of the things that I found, and it wasn't through something as pleasurable as working with you, it was one of those things where I had to go through a real awakening. I had to go through, and it was painful. It was not an easy thing. I had to figure out that I was addicted to all kinds of things that were killing me. And I feel like it's important and vital that we point this out to people. There is a way to cook, have fun doing it, eat, and heal yourself. Now, I'm not suggesting that you can heal everything, okay? But there are literally examples of people out there, including you, that have been able to maintain and to an extent reverse some medical challenges, right? That probably started out being food induced in the first place over a series, you know what I mean?
Right.
Is that somewhat accurate?
Yeah, and I am a really firm believer that the energy in which that you prepare your food from has an effect on how you digest it. And not even like I'm a firm believer, it's scientifically proven. If you're stressed out when you're eating, your cortisol levels rise and then your
Mhm.
digestion slows. And so if you're eating a cookie and you're shaming yourself as you're doing it, you are not going to be able to digest that as well as if you're making it from love and enjoyment and like reverence and sacredness and then eating that, like your dopamine will increase from that energy and you will be able to digest that more easily. And so my new course is actually called Intro to Cooking with Energy because it's like you said, it's a cycle. And so it's the vibrations of the food and the quality of your ingredients and the integrity of those whole ingredients, but it's also the energy in which you prepare it with. And so that's why I like my cycle of bringing that intention of high vibe happy energy into the kitchen is because it maximizes it. And so you take this meal that's really vibrant and healthy to begin with, but then you add in this positive, vibrant energy. And it's like, it's the cycle that, like you said, can heal, make all foods healing and heal your body.
I find this fascinating. And part of the reason I find it fascinating is if you start the right way, so I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, I feel like that because we know that what we're cooking with you is something that's going to be good for us, we start off without that shaming thing. We start off without the sort of, because I feel like, people are creatures of habit, right? And I feel like, and I know this from personal experience, we gravitate to certain comfort foods. Okay, we had a great recession in 2008, and when that great recession hit, I was absolutely completely ill prepared for it, and I ended up eating a lot of my stress. I ended up going to things that I grew up eating, and almost none of that was healthy, right? And I ended up in a place where I didn't want to be, where I had a 50-inch waist, 50-inch waist. I felt terrible. And I felt terrible because my body was rebelling from all the abuse that I put it through. But I would cook the food and I would feel guilty about the food I was cooking. Then I'd feel guilty about eating it. Then I'd feel guilty about how bad I felt after. Right. It was like this sort of piling on thing.
Yeah.
I feel like your program is the opposite, where
Mhm.
people know they're going to be energized. They know they're going to be healthier. They know they're going to be healed to an extent, right? And they go at this with a positive mindset, and that energy carries through the entire process and then makes them
Mhm.
want to do it more.
Mhm. It does. And one of the key distinguishers about my program, which I think is important to note, is that I have a huge emphasis on flexibility. And so if someone wants to eat their comfort food one night, I say absolutely 100% eat it. Because what a lot of diets and traditional nutrition plans do is that they put it in a box of black and white, that this is good and this is bad. And I full heartedly disagree. I think that we're humans and emotions are linked to food. And so for us to remove emotions from food would be a miss. And so I help people create that solid routine and foundation around simple nutrition and flavor, but I also allow them permission to add in the flexibility of whatever the hell they're craving, because
Yeah.
that creates the energy of fun and freedom, which again, our digestive system can recognize. And so you have the vibrancy and the groundedness from the physical nutrition, but then you also have the fluidity from the lack of rules, because screw rules. It's like we can't systemize human beings. Like, we're all so different. If we all ate the same diet, we would still be different sizes and would still react differently. And so it's like, how do we maximize our emotional satiety and our physical foundation in the kitchen? And this is what I'm doing behind the scenes. I'm not necessarily having you create like a math like fraction of how to do this, but it's just you stepping into my container. Like, I hold that space so that someone else can just relax into that, like you said, without that guilt and without that shame, and with that knowing and that trust that they will be taken care of on a physical and emotional level.
Well, there's a comfort there,
Mhm.
right? There's a comfort that they step into when they work with you and they learn from you that I think is palpable. And you know, I don't it when people when like you nailed it when you said people will cook their food, they'll feel guilty about the food they're cooking, they'll feel guilty about eating it, then afterwards they've eaten it and they feel run down, so they feel guilty about feeling run down because of what, right? And then all of a sudden it's like this snowball effect. And I believe there really is validity to the energy that you bring to digestion, because your
Mhm.
body is affected a certain way, right? It's like when people would tell you, like, one of the things that happened with me was I learned how to combine food. Like, one of the things I never do, or try to never do, is I try to never combine a protein with a carb, because at the end of the day, my body's fighting to digest both. People don't realize that your body, when food's introduced, pulls blood from everywhere, right? To complete that digestion. It's why you don't go swimming 10 minutes after you eat. Otherwise you cramp, right? So I feel like people don't realize how important digestion is, number one, in your bodily function. Number two, how emotion and energy is a part of that.
Yeah, and in my experience, emotion and energy can trump most of the food rules, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And that's what I love the most about your program.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say that somebody is having a challenge with that sort of loop that we're talking about, a challenge with enjoying cooking, a challenge with the energy that they're bringing to the preparation, the actual cooking, the actual eating, and then the after effect, right? How can they work with you?
I would say take a cooking class with me, and like we're gonna have so much fun. And so I have a membership, um Intuitive Health Cook Club, which people can drop in on monthly, yearly. And I also have the course that I mentioned, Intro to Cooking with Energy. And so this really breaks breaks down the systemization of the frequential impact that our energy has in the kitchen and with our food, which I think is fascinating, and it helps people kind of leave with their own intuitive health blueprint. So if someone wants to know kind of more the why or the how behind it, I would suggest that. If someone wants to just throw themselves into the deep end and like cook an amazing meal for the family, join the membership.
Okay.
Or
So
if they want to pop off and come to Italy, do that.
I love that idea, right?
Yeah.
So talk about, do you still do the program where they cook with you and then you end up in Italy for the final
Yeah,
part?
so I transitioned that into the membership, and so the people who sign up for my Italy retreat, they get their own group of classes, cooking classes with just the people going on retreat that they get leading up to it, which
Yeah,
is
that's the word I
super.
was looking for, retreat. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I do still do that.
We should just call it playtime.
It's like it's soul time, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, right? It's good for the soul.
Good for the soul.
I love that. So in order to reach you, they just go to intuitivehealth.com.
Myintuitivehealth.com.
Oh, sorry, myintuitivehealth.com. I apologize.
My intuitive. Yeah.
That's right. Just so we're clear, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up?
Oh my gosh. I would just say don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take your diet too seriously. It's like we're all humans. We're all just meant to have fun and make healthy, yummy shit taste good. So don't worry about anything.
You're kind of all about getting rid of the guilt, aren't you?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, like, why the hell would you live life with guilt? That's not
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And, Mike, like, I'll say from personal experience, like, I'm not just saying this willy-nilly, like, I've lived through it. I've lived through the guilt, I've lived through the shame, I've lived through restricting foods and trying to make my body look a certain way, and, like, I've lived in that hell. And I'm not available for that.
Yeah.
And only am I not available for that, I've found a way that surpasses that, where I don't have to worry about that from my mind, and I can still feel vibrant in my body, light in my body, and have the freedom to drink wine and eat chips on the coast of Greece while I'm researching a retreat, like, spoiler alert. But, like, you know what I mean? And so there really is another way of life where you don't have to choose between restricting your diet and feeling good in your body.
Okay. What? So there's another retreat? Is there another
There is.
program coming up?
It is, it's almost sold out though, which is I don't even have it on my website, but it is. I have a program with cooking and coaching that ends with a retreat in Greece in October. And the program actually begins in July, so
And nobody knows about it yet.
except the people who are signed up, yeah. It's got filled with word of mouth, and so I think I have 2 spots available now if anyone's interested, but yeah,
Unbelievable. And so you're in Greece right now
I am.
preparing all this,
I am.
getting all this ready.
I am.
Okay.
Dolce vita.
Dolce Vita, baby. Okay. Okay. So anything you have coming up in the future, we'd love to have you back to talk about it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd enjoy
Love it.
that.
Great.
I cannot thank you enough for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been an absolute ride. I gotta go take some Dramamine.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.